Chicago has always loved a headline, and for a long time the biggest one was a name, Al Capone. In the daylight, he was the man who turned prohibition into profit, bootleg liquor by the trainload, gambling on every corner, and a police force that looked the other way until the cameras showed up. The outfit became an empire, and Capone became a folk hero and a monster in the same breath. A city of gangsters had finally found its king. Behind the scenes, the city's vampires were watching. Capone's power thrilled them and frightened them. If a mortal could command Chicago that completely, what might a rival Kindred do with him? Prince Lodin decided to make sure no one found out. He eased the right wheels, nudged the right prosecutors, and Capone went down for tax evasion. The city exhaled. The headlines moved on. But monsters don't retire. When Capone came out of prison, diminished and angry, Lodin came calling with an offer that changed Chicago forever. The prince offered power that never slept. Capone accepted. The man the papers had christened Scarface took a new name only the damned use, Ventrue. In Unlife, Capone learned a different way to rule. No flashbulbs, no parades. Lodin installed him behind the curtain, and Capone pulled strings like a born puppeteer. He ran enterprises that never saw daylight, moved money that didn't exist, and learned to make men disappear quietly. At first, he hated the anonymity. Then he realized the advantage. If no one is looking at you, you can see everything. There was one fly in the ointment, Horatio Ballard. As a mortal, Ballard had wanted Capone broken. As a kindred, he found him intolerable. When Capone started buying his way into respectable business to launder his fortune, Ballard took it personally. Their quiet war threatened to swamp the city with scandals, reporters, and heat. Lodin stepped in again, forcing both men to give up key levers: Capone's grip on the police, Ballard's hold over City Hall. It saved the Masquerade, but cost Lodin the loyalty of them both. When the prince finally fell, Capone shed no tears. That lesson hardened into a creed. In Capone's mind, there's always a higher authority that wants a cut. Camarilla elders, anarch firebrands, it doesn't matter. So he set his sights not on a throne, but on the hands that pay the person who sits on it. Titles are targets, debts are power. Let someone else take the crown and the assassination attempts. Capone would be the man behind the throne, counting the favors. Then came the Second Inquisition. Raids, black bag disappearances, gas leaks that left havens as craters. Rumors spread that Capone had gone to ash. Truth was, he'd been patient before. He could be patient again. He staged his death, retreated from the limelight, and watched the city through trusted eyes. You don't survive 11 years in a federal penitentiary without learning how to wait. In the V5 Nights, as Kevin Jackson consolidates power in Chicago, Capone moves again. Quietly, deliberately. He wants the prince to rule and to owe. He wants every blue blood who matters to need something only Capone can provide. He wants to be the piper everyone pays, whether they hear the tune or not. He's built for it. Capone keeps a haven in Evanston, just off Northwestern University. A manor close to the vintages he prefers, and near another financier he means to bring to heel. He's old world in his tastes and in his temper. Stout, scarred, watched by tailors who keep the suits perfect and the bloodstains invisible. He never crafted a new public persona. His name is both shield and risk. He limits his movements and keeps his face out of cameras because fame is a masquerade breach waiting to happen. But whispered in the right ear, Capone still opens doors and closes mouths. Feeding for Capone is business, not recreation. Like many Ventrue, his palate is painfully specific. He cultivates the herd he needs with ruthless efficiency. Charities, scholarships, and quiet influence that keep the right vessels close. When he needs broader reach, he makes use of systems that deliver the proper blood to the proper door. Never giving more information than he must, never paying more than he needs to, always making sure a favor is owed on the return trip. Capone's empire now wears respectable clothing. Lake Michigan Imports Inc. is the mass that moves his money and people around city permits and customs checks. Soup kitchens and food banks dot neighborhoods the city forgets. Places where the hungry trade gossip for dinner, where a boss can hear what he can't afford to ask. Mid-level operators send coded messages through podcasts and innocuous broadcasts. A recipe show becomes a ledger of favors if you know how to listen. The network looks like kindness and jobs from the outside. On the inside, it is leverage. The old feud with Ballard never died. Capone still keeps moles inside the city's most corpulent blue blood. He intends to map the network and take it whole when the time is right. If the hands that grip his city happen to turn to ash along the way, he won't mourn them. And Capone never stopped making vampires. His children are proof that a ruthless teacher breeds ambitious students. Eddie Wu, the sharpest of them, took the outfit's methods and built a vampiric crew of his own, operating from a jazz club the mortal Capone once favored. The Green Mill looks like nostalgia, which makes it perfect cover. Eddie works the narcotics routes, the Southeast Asian pipelines, the local cooks. He keeps out of the prince's shadow and lets a brilliant ghoul run the night to night. In that crew, the old rules still hold. A favor for a favor. One job becomes two, and if you get made, you get to sit at the table. Until you don't. Another child, Frank Gone, is a walking cautionary tale among the blue bloods. One whose feeding fixation and pride say as much about his lineage as about his character. In Chicago's rumor mill, even a Ventrue's palate becomes a weapon or a weakness, and the stories about Capone's lying get told with equal parts awe and spite. Older knights remember names like Jack McGurn and others who kept the faith when bullets were cheaper than words. Whether they're still in Capone's pocket or turned out to be liabilities, the lesson stands. The family business is eternal. The faces change. What does Al Capone want now? The same thing he's always wanted. The city, on his terms. He doesn't need to be prince. He needs the prince to owe him. He doesn't need the applause. He needs the ledger. If he feeds the poor, it's because loyalty is cheaper than fear and lasts longer. If he funds a scholarship, it's because paid debts walk willingly into your parlor. If he vanishes, it's because a dead man can move more freely than a living legend. Ask most people, and they'll tell you he's a relic. Ask the people who actually run things, and they'll tell you different. The outfit never really stopped. It just started wearing better suits and learned not to smile for the camera. In Chicago, every throne has a shadow behind it. And in that shadow, a scarred man in a perfect suit is still counting, still listening, still making sure that when the bill comes due, the tune you hear is his. Capone doesn't want to be seen. He wants to be unavoidable. In a city that measures power in favors and secrets, the crown is optional. The debt is everything. So what do you think? Is Al Capone the ultimate example of a mortal monster turned kindred kingpin? Or just another player in Chicago's endless game of shadows? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your take on how dangerous Capone really is in the world of darkness. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the history of Chicago's most infamous Ventrue, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and ring that bell. There are plenty more stories from the shadows waiting to be told, and you won't want to miss the next one.